So for your power button or the power flex cable, it's actually a cable that runs up here from the power button, and then it runs down and kind of wraps up your speaker right here. If you're having problems with the phone, maybe not going back to the lock screen, or it doesn't power down when you push and hold it, this speaker, or I'm sorry, this cable will be the repair that you want to do. You'll want to replace that. Now, also, if you're having problems when you put the phone up to your face and the proximity or the light sensor doesn't register and the backlight doesn't shut off, then you'll also want to repair this as well. So, what we'll do, and I'll show you here on the close-up, is we actually have two screws that we're going to remove on the inside here. We have a screw there, and move that back, we have a screw right there as well. So we're going to take those two screws out, and then the other thing we're going to need to remove is this little bracket right here. There's a little clip, and it's kind of hard to see, but it's a little kind of larger on this side, skinnier on that side, and it has two clips holding that sensor and the little bracket for the sensor all in place. So we'll lift that out and then be able to remove the sensor and everything as well. Let's go back to the main shot. Now, one thing you can do is, if you want, you can remove the LCD digitizer. These plugs kind of get in the way, and if you feel more comfortable removing that whole assembly, then you can watch the LCD digitizer repair to see how to remove that. I don't, but one of the reasons is I have, kind of a longer and skinnier screwdriver, so it actually, I'm able just to kind of get in here, not putting any pressure at all on these cables, because the last thing you want to do is fold them or crease them too much, and then you can actually damage them. So what we'll do is we'll remove these two screws, unclip this, and then lift the cable off of the frame. There will be some adhesive underneath, so it may take a little bit to get that out, but we'll start with the two screws. Now when you remove it, this little bracket right here, this little retaining bracket, your power button may fall out. If it falls out, just know that you want this little lever right here to be all the way down. So if by chance you get it in the wrong way, and when you go to put it in, it only sits about halfway, that little lever will be in backwards. So you want to make sure it goes down all the way. And if it falls out, you can just pinch it and kind of drop it back in place. Just drop it back in place right there. It'll be good. Okay, now to get this bracket out, what I'll do is I'll get on one side with my flathead screwdriver and just kind of pop it. Be able to pop it up, and you see it kind of lift up right there. And then I'll grab my tweezers and just kind of lift the other side out. And that little bracket, you want to make sure that you put it back in how it came out. So you want the larger side to the left. And then with that, this is kind of held on. That little bracket kind of gets in there. There's a little bit of adhesive on it, so you just want to make sure that you get that out. And then what we'll do, again grabbing the flathead, is we'll just lift up this whole cable, and that should come out in one piece. Now we'll have to transfer a couple of things. One thing being the retaining bracket right here, this larger piece for the power button. So we'll lift this off. You may just be able just to pull it. There you go. That's easier. And then you'll take the backing off of the new power button. and we'll line the two larger outside holes with the black, those two black guides right there, and then the two, the two holes, yeah, line up with the two guides, the two black guides on the actual power retaining bracket right there. And you want to make sure you line it up. You'll be able to see here on the close-up. You should be able to see the two little guides right through those little holes right there. So there's a hole there and a hole right there. And you should see those little guides in there. And then once you get that, the other thing that you may need to change over on the actual cable is this little bracket right here that kind of helps with the clip that goes over the top to hold this piece in place. If yours doesn't have this little bracket on here, you'll just need to peel the old bracket off of the old part right here. You have to peel that off and transfer it to the new piece. Just be careful with the cable. But it should come with that little bracket in place already. Now, what we'll do first is we'll actually put the power button, this retaining bracket, we'll put that in place and lay everything down, and then we'll put the speaker in place on here, and then the last thing we'll do is we'll actually fold that over and then clip it in place. So with this, we'll just kind of pull those cables back again and make sure that we get this little retaining bracket lined up. And you don't want to tighten these screws down too much, just in case you have to take them out. Then you don't want to have to do too much work. Now the first thing you'll want to check is that the power button recoils. If it doesn't and that little button's off, maybe just half a centimeter or something, it can make a big difference. So you just want to make sure that the button does recoil. And then we'll tuck that cable in there. And what's going to happen is you're going to pull those two cables up, and the power flex cable is going to go underneath of your LCD and your digitizer cables. Now the other thing, and I'll show you this again on the close-up here, is that there should be a couple of guides on that bracket. So you might see two little holes right there. And with those holes on the cable, there's two little guides on the actual frame. And you can line that cable up accordingly. So once you get the cable in place, you'll probably be able to hold it kind of with your finger. Just hold it in place. And then you get that kind of set. We'll peel this speaker off of the old cable. And we'll drop it into place on the new cable. Now this is where it helps as well, having the tweezers that are non-magnetic, because you can kind of hold the speaker in place and it won't stick it all to your tweezers. But if you don't, you can use your finger. Probably works all the same. And then you're going to fold the cable over that has that little retaining bracket. Kind of get that set. And then what we'll do here is we'll get this clip that holds that bracket in place. And we'll slide that in. And you should either hear or feel it click. And once you know it's clicked and kind of locked in place, then you just want to kind of tuck all these cables in place and make sure everything is good. And the last thing, we'll lift these cables, set the LCD and digitizer cable back, and then you want to change over this little spacer from the old cable, which is right here, to the new cable. And I'll show you that on the reassemble, but that little spacer is going to help with the cable to stay in place when you put the phone back together. If you drop the phone or the phone gets jarred somehow, these cables can come unplugged. And with that spacer on there, it gives it enough of a kind of a buffer to keep it securely in place so that it may not happen to you. But anyways, again, test the phone. Make sure the power button is recoiling before you put everything back together. But that's how you change your power cable and the sensor.